So my name is Scott, and we're here for Chase because in 2020 we actually had to use YANA services. Chase came with a delicate case of, he was diagnosed with leukemia while we were on a vacation in Mexico.
My name's Kaylee. My son Ben was diagnosed with leukemia when he was 2.5. He's relapsed twice now. So we've been with YANA for about 8 years.
We became a YANA family when Lyndon, was diagnosed with leukemia 13 years ago.
We were introduced to YANA in 2016 when our first son was born. He was born prematurely, and we got that first envelope. But our first son rightfully did pass away the same day he was born. But we ended up using YANA services, I guess it was 9 months later when our twins, Maverick and his brother Matthias, were born. Matthias passed away when he was 13 days old. Maverick spent 250 days in Vancouver in the neonatal unit there where we stayed in the YANA apartment.
For the Crumplers, we were introduced to YANA 18 years ago on February 14th when our oldest son Owen was born prematurely. We spent a lot of time over at Children's waiting, and our trips over haven't stopped. Owen was diagnosed with cerebral palsy by the age of 3.
I'm Maggie. I had leukemia when I was 5, and I used one of the YANA apartments and their resources. It really gave me a home when I was away from mine.
I'm Danielle. I'm Annie's mom. Annie has type 1 diabetes, epilepsy. She also has celiac disease. So she was sick from the time she was, she was 3.
I don't get that emotional.
She doesn't. So yeah, for 10 years now we've been using YANA. They're great. We still use them to this day. I also have 2 kids on the spectrum that go to appointments that we also use YANA. So it's a big part of our family.
I know when we did YANA for Big Love last year, it was for my daughter, but when we were doing that last year, I was actually in Victoria for a month with my son. And the trauma that happened, and then there was Big Love, and I couldn't make it. But they still supported Ava to make it. And had I not had the month of YANA support and the ongoing support to be in isolation with my son, it was really unique. Because I know families who don't have that.
Allie spent her entire life in the hospital. 4 months that were supposed to be the beginning of everything and instead became her whole story. YANA made it possible for me to be there for every single day of it. They gave me a place to stay. They helped with food. They lifted the impossible burden so many parents around me were being forced to bear. The choice between being with their baby and being able to afford to survive. I watched families at BC Children's NICU come from all over the province, and I saw the heartbreak of parents who had to leave their babies behind because they simply could not afford to stay. Because of YANA, I did not have to leave. I got to hold Allie. I got to learn her face, her sounds, her little rhythms. I got to be her mom in every way I could be. And when she passed away at Canuck Place at 4 months old, I knew with everything in me that I had spent her entire life with her.
It's interesting because I was a nurse in the intensive care unit, and we used to refer. I had the list, and I knew of YANA amongst other resources, and I would offer them, suggest them to people that were fitting the criteria. And then it was not a very long while after that, Tessa was diagnosed, and I didn't think to use it. And I remember Jackie saying, well, what about YANA? And I said, well, we don't, that's okay. Like I'm used to seeing someone else, you know, and she said, no, you should use it too. I remember Marcy saying that to us, no, that's absolutely so.
We were new to the Comox Valley and I didn't know about YANA. And then we found out that our baby was, you know, had lots going on that was going to be really hard, and everything just seemed to fall apart. And that, you know, every day, you know, there just seemed to be this news that was heavier and heavier. And I remember at one point somebody said, well, why don't you call YANA? And just, you know, I had to look up who YANA was, and I had kind of a feeling of like maybe similar to what you shared a little bit, but just feeling undeserving. You hadn't been here, I'd never contributed to YANA, and but I called and left a message, and like within an hour, it was a dad was there that she called back and she left me a message, and I just remember thinking, wow. I just couldn't believe it. Like, we can offer you an apartment, we can offer you this and that, and I thought, oh my gosh. Okay, it took so much of our load away. It just made it feel like, okay, there's a path here.
YANA became the calm in our storm. Within hours of contacting Kelly, we were handed the keys to an apartment and wrapped in the care and support of YANA. The very next day, our family was reunited at BC Children's Hospital, ready to face what was coming together.
You know, we're used to being sort of this rock and really pushing through, and what I did find for myself, more than that cash, was that I could be vulnerable with YANA. And I could email Courtney and just, she'd check in and I'd just be like, I'm losing it, like, I'm coming undone here. And she always had these words of comfort, like she just knew it was natural.
Like, as a child, like, I needed my dad there, but it's like he didn't have anyone. Like, he's an adult, he has to do his adult things. It's everyone's first life. There's no one really there normally to hold like his hand and help him through.
I have like a lot of memories of the apartment. Some of the best ones were when I had like a craving for pickle, and we could never find anything that I was like really wanting to eat at the time. And so my dad's friend, Aaron, he sent over a giant box of like all things pickle related. And like a third of the way through the box, I was like, I don't like pickle.
Of course. Is that a stereotype?
We always went into the office, like when we first started, we would go into the office and collect our checks or whatever. And Leslie, she's just always so funny because she always had like treats there, and she would just make you stay a little bit and chat to you. She like just going to the office was like the best part, because it's like, oh, you know, it just made you smile that much more before you had to go somewhere or go to your trip. I loved going to the office.
So when I first heard about YANA, I'd come home from that. So when I was born, I left to Vancouver immediately. And I came home about 4 days after to get some clothes and some personal stuff. And there was a knock at the door, and there was a volunteer with keys. He said, hi, I'm from YANA, and I have keys to an apartment and an envelope with some money to help. And I was like, who? I'd never heard of YANA. Which is great, because I had to phone my boss and tell him that I'm going to be away from work for indefinitely, and the mortgage payments don't stop, and we were going to be in Vancouver for a while. So keys to an apartment on the 3rd floor on Oak Street, and that was my first interaction. They've known us ever since.
Yeah, I think for me, first time I heard about YANA,
we were at the YANA auction, and we'd only been here for a couple years, and friends invited us. We actually didn't really know much about it, and we were blown away. It really kind of launched us into the community, into that feeling. Felt instantly like we were part of something, and then a year later, you know, we were one of the YANA families. And, you know, there was my daughter on the screen, Karen's video, and it was really polarizing in a way. We were just like, wow. But we felt supported. And
whenever we were at Ronald McDonald, whenever someone heard you're from Comox, they'd be like, oh,
Ronald McDonald!
You're so lucky because you have YANA. Like, no one else has this type of support. And so everyone was just very, I don't want to say envious, but envious that we have such good support in our community. It's really amazing. Yeah.